content over everything.
Do you want an autograph?
Anyways, because I can't.
You want an autograph, Pandita? Do you want it? Get the paper.
Raj, can you go to him?
Autograph for you. You're obviously a fan.
Go to him.
Either go with him or ignore him.
No, go.
Okay, then ignore him. Just
I'm
ignore
only
him.
joking. I enjoy a bit of a. I
Just
enjoy a bit
ignore
of fan.
him.
Right?
Ignore him, man. Ignore him.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
That's a fair
Yeah, happy Yarmulke. Happy Hanukkah.
So basically,
I meant Hanukkah.
These
I swear.
discussions just lost.
yeah. So
Happy
basically,
Hanukkah.
yeah, we're good. So basically, what happens in my country, everything is like part of everything. Innit? So basically, you've got yeah. So no, it's my
I don't
country.
stand the same though, man.
There's a lot left. Don't say that. Don't say
Okay,
that.
sorry guys.
It's because of. Anyways, in my country, there's a lot of things that we do. So let's just say if a bunch of non-Somalis come to Somalia,
Yeah.
if they are willing to contribute to the economy, trying to maybe open schools, being part of society, integrating, I don't mind that.
Okay.
But as long as they're trying to infiltrate within the culture and the religion and trying to change the law of the country, then I would have a problem with that. The reason why I said this.
I agree.
But still, let me explain to you why.
Let him justify it.
What's
Name me one single government of Somalia that has had total control of the territory of Somalia.
All of it. All of Somalia.
Even Somaliland.
Wait. Are we talking about 1960s?
Right.
Yes, Barre.
And that was a Russian. That was a Russian-backed regime, correct?
What do you mean Russian? No, we were
Russian,
allied. We were
Russian.
allied.
Soviet.
We were allied with the Russians.
You mean Soviet?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We were
Soviet.
allied.
Right. So the regime in Somalia at that time.
Oh, you should start
used,
watching that.
Russian weapons,
You start
Russian
watching Richard
intelligence
now.
to suppress its country.
Now he
and
leaves.
impose communism.
no.
Impose communism on Somalia.
But Somalia was an ally of Russia. And the weapons that we
Soviet
got from,
Union.
Soviet Union, and the weapons we had, they didn't give it to us for free, bro. We bought it.
They colonized you.
Russia did not colonize us. What kind of
Colonized
history?
you. They colonized you because they wanted to control the whole of Africa.
They couldn't
wanted to
control.
control the
No one could
ship.
control Somalia. Even the British, look, Britain, France, and Italy combined could not control Somalia. How would a single
One
country,
weak spot.
Russia,
We got everywhere else though.
I know.
You control the country by controlling the political elite. There's no doubt
we've got
Russia
the land where the
controls
sun doesn't set,
political elite.
right? They came to us, but when they came to us, the sun set upon them. So who are you?
So what did Somalia have that Russia needed?
What did Somalia have Russia needed?
What did they need?
We had oil, we had minerals.
Russia has plenty of oil. Azerbaijan.
Well, still they wanted it. I don't know what the hell
Soviet
else they
Union,
wanted. But they could never control Somalia. They could never control Somalia.
They're gonna keep
However,
saying that.
come back to your point.
Yes, please do, because I want to respond to this.
So the reason why I said
You
that,
would feel
know,
uncomfortable.
The reason why I would feel uncomfortable is that prior to this, in the let's go back to 1800s,
Sure.
when the British came and they started putting their spies everywhere trying to control the country.
Sure.
Somehow they got hold of certain things, and the colonial power got a bit more stronger, more powerful. And what they did is that the Italians and the British imposed the Western political system upon the Somali people, and hence that we had our own political system. At this point, the Ghalidi Sultanate was apparent. The Ghalidi Sultanate was there around 1800s, and when they imposed this political system that's alien to us, guess what happened? Everything collapsed piece by piece because we couldn't understand it. Because our
It was incompatible with your
exactly. Because our people, for example, you have a king, and then under the king you have nobles. Under the nobles you got tribal leaders. Then you got this, you got that. It was like a pyramid where everybody knows where they belonged. And then this thing, you have this political system where everybody belongs to a certain, like for example, a president.
You mean
and
democracy?
Democracy.
Sort of republic.
Exactly. Yeah. So
It's also
Sort of liberal
stratified.
individualist model. I get what you're saying.
exactly.
That's
So it's
very-
only like parties and that. So people are thinking, what tribe do you belong to? I don't know if I'm part of that tribe. Are you this? So people got confused. So that's why right now, if we add more confusion to this fuel that has already been created, it'll create more fuel. That's why I would say I wouldn't feel comfortable. But however, if people are bringing change and knowledge and ideas, I welcome that. Why not?
Okay, but
Somalia's a failed state, really, isn't it?
It's not. It's not a failed state.
But sorry, is there a central government in Somalia at the moment?
Yes.
Right. Does that government control the whole of its territory?
It does, yeah.
Is there one single legal system which people can depend on to get legal cases?
You see, if you try and define Somalia in the face or the way Britain works, it doesn't work like that. You understand?
That's the way the world works.
Can we say that? Can we say America? Yeah. Can we say America is in control in every region in America?
But it's a federal
The
system.
president,
Yeah, but it's
the
a
president has
Although it has
authority
division of state
in all the
powers,
different
it has
In
also
states.
federal.
reality,
No doubt
reality,
whatsoever that the United States operates its single legal system within its territory.
it does. But can we say
They do have some
control?
differences though. They
Yeah,
have some
there's
states where
exactly-
there's
there's
death
states
penalty
law.
and other states where there's
The
no
question he's
death
asking,
Exactly.
Is there a single system of federal
Yeah,
law
yeah.
which exists?
Yes.
And there's no doubt whatsoever.
There is. There is. Somalia now is a federal system. They have a new system called the federal. They accept the federal system. You got Puntland, Jubaland, and all these countries. What's it called? Regions. They have their own regional leaders, and they are under the
And
federal
there's
system.
no part of Somalia which is controlled by jihadists from outside of Somalia.
Look, Nigeria is a big country, and they're controlled, but still they got Boko Haram. Does that mean Nigeria does not control
Right, so
their
you're
country?
agreeing with me. You don't have the present government
Oi.
in Somalia does
Just
not
because
control its own
Nigeria has Boko
territory
Haram, is
along
Nigeria a
with-
failed state?
Right.
No! You're nonsense, man. What are you talking
Well,
about?
thousands are dying in Nigeria, so
Yeah,
it
but
kind of
still-
feels like a failed
But
state.
is that a failed state?
Right.
Is it?
Right.
Is it though?
That's a good test.
In the eyes of the world, is Nigeria a failed
can the
state?
central government and the legal system guarantee security, safety, especially for school children in that territory? No, they can't. So Nigeria is in some real problems, yes.
Okay. Now let's go back to Somalia.
Let's do that.
You see, the thing he's talking about is that safety and all of that stuff. It's really hard. I'm telling you, it's really hard for a country, right, who from the start, and you know what? For some reason, I've said it, but for some reason, the Western world have a major problem with Somalia. And the reason being, look, when the Somali president was overthrown in Somalia, a new power was about to rise. A guy by the name of ID, right?
Which period's this?
It was 1991, right? A new government was about to rise, right? But what the Americans, because America wanted the Somali oil, so if a new power rose, that means it would have been hard for them to get the oil. So what they did is that they labeled the new guy who was campaigning to be a president. Guess what? They said he's a rebel, he's a tribal leader, and they tried to assassinate him. They went to Mogadishu. They thought they could just go there.
The Americans tried to assassinate the head.
Uh,
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they tried to kill the guy who. Let me finish.
How
Let
much
me
oil?
Let me
How
finish.
much
Did they
oil
succeed in killing
Somalia
him?
produce?
Somalia,
I would like to tell you
has
that-
more oil than many African countries. We got the
And let me
longest
tell you,
coastline.
U.S. is self-sufficient in oil.
It's not.
Yeah, but
It
they
is.
still look.
If
but
US was self-sufficient, why did it go to Iraq?
Yeah,
why
wait,
did it
wait,
go
wait,
to
wait,
Libya?
wait. Guys,
it has oil,
guys.
global oil companies
Guys,
that
you-
sell oil around the country.
Exactly,
the
you're
world.
both kind of right because the US is self-sufficient, but they still use the oil
Yeah.
from other countries.
Yeah,
So you're both kind of right.
exactly. But anyways, coming back to the point.
About this specific.
America
Yeah.
goes to Mogadishu, and I don't know if you guys heard about the Black Hawk Down.
The what?
Right, the Black Hawk Down.
Hawk
Black
Down?
Hawk. Like basically,
Hawk
when
Down.
America went to Mogadishu and they totally got destroyed and they went back flying. No, you know what I'm saying?
Because a bunch of
And
Americans
then
got taken hostage by jihadis.
jihadis,
Jihadis.
people who are protecting their country.
Jihadis.
Are you calling that? Okay, so
calling them
right now,
jihadis.
so if Somalia invaded your country and you picked up a gun to defend your country from the Somalis, are you a rebel? Are you a
So
terrorist?
the people that kidnapped these people, were they the state or were they simply a paramilitary group?
No, these people,
They were
because
jihadis.
remember, look, the president died in Nigeria. He got somewhere he died, and the government was overflowing. The closest candidate to be a president was ID. You understand? But what happened in this process was that America did not want a Somalia with power. And guess what? What they did is that first of all, they made sure they attacked this movement. But the reason, look, it's not only one man. It was the whole city, the whole freaking city versus America. every young and children, they knew that they had to protect their country. And guess what? As soon as they flew away and they couldn't do anything, when America flew away and all their
How many
choppers,
helicopters were there?
I think there were 2 or 3.
Right.
But look,
So it wasn't exactly a gigantic invasion by America trying to. It was
well,
Americans trying to get back their hostages.
No, they used. It's not. There were no hostages. There was no Americans in the soil. What they're trying to do is arrest Aidid. They wanted to arrest
I don't
Aidid,
think so.
but Aidid had defenders. Because you don't know the history. Shut up, man. But the thing is this, yeah. What happened in the process?
You referred to Black Hawk
What-
Down. Even in the film, they got
what?
that right.
No. You see, one of our freedom fighters, one of our icon, yeah, is Sayyid Abdullah Hassan, who fought the British. He defeated them. However, in the eyes of the British, he is a terrorist. However, but in the eyes of the Somali, Winston Churchill is a terrorist because he came to terrorize our country. So a hero is made in the eyes of the people that he comes from. You know what I'm saying? So for you to say that my people were terrorists or your people are heroes, because they're your people.
Well, he's not British, to be fair.
No, I'm not American and I'm not British. So
Then why are you speaking for American and British if you're not both?
you referred to Black Hawk Down. That was a book, and then it was a film. In the film,
But
it's quite
it
clear.
was
The
reality.
only reason the American helicopters, which
Have you watched the
said,
film?
You told
Have
us
you
there were
watched the
3
film?
American helicopters. So that's maximum.
Have you watched the film?
That's maximum 50 people.
Have
the only
you watched
reason
the
they
film?
were there was
No.
trying to get back American hostages.
Before Americans went in, guess what? They sent
Why would they
Pakistani.
send only 3
There were
helicopters?
Pakistani armies included, Napoleon army. You had so many armies that were not American. But first, so we defeated these armies. They had to run back, and then guess what happened? The Americans joined in.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So prior to that, they had to set. They had
I
to
don't
set the way
know.
for them.
I'm not really participating in this specific part because I don't know about the whole.
Yeah, I
helicopter
don't feel
thing.
qualified enough to speak
But
on
no
Somali
problem.
history.
There weren't
because
that
He
many.
made me speak about it.
But
You
look,
know what I'm saying?
there weren't that many armies that invaded Somalia.
There was a lot of them. There was Pakistanis.
Not really.
So we look at how many countries.
Wait,
there
no,
were.
but
Okay,
I
look,
feel like I don't
look,
get
how
look.
many
It all
countries?
depends. It all
Somali
depends
history.
how you quantify an invasion. If you
How
quantify
many
a raid
countries?
or a
an
full scale,
incursion, you know,
exactly,
yeah.
it's different.
But how many
Like a
countries?
small raid is
Pakistan,
different.
How many
Somalia.
countries
Yeah.
were involved in that incident? And anyways, I wouldn't say that. Look, if let's say 4 helicopters from Russia came and flew into London and they started terrorizing, that is classified as an invasion from Russia. Am I correct?
Yeah, but you're
Exactly.
going
So,
over.
for a foreign
Why were they
country
there? There were
came-
hostages being held. There were
Listen, okay,
American
okay.
hostages being held.
Did you watch the film? Did you watch the film?
I
I
read
watched
the
the
book.
film
I
4
read the
times.
book.
I watched the film
I read the
for
book.
well, the
Is
film.
wait, guys, is the film the only source of
No,
knowledge
the
we
film
have?
is
The
the
book
illustration
was
of the
written
book.
by
Book and
one
the
of the
film.
helicopter pilots.
The book, the film is the illustration of the book.
film's a film.
You understand?
Okay.
And the film depicts, or even the book depicts or tells, because it's the same thing. It shows that Americans saying we need to free Somalia as usual. They like to free people for some reason.
Very
yeah, sure.
liberating.
Yeah, sure.
Bringing democracy.
Here
Yeah.
comes the nuke of freedom.
Exactly. Let's go free Somalia.
Yeah.
Right? They came to us. They tried to free us, but they put us in more shit that we could even get from.
Absolutely.
Come on, man.
Anyway,
So
so
you get angry about the Americans, but you don't get angry about the Russians who directly colonized you as an atheist power. That's interesting. That's an interesting contrast.
Russia, look,
it's easy
I had an interest.
It's easy to shout against the
country-
Americans, but not a
I
word
was
of
the most-
criticism of the
when I
Russian
was an- I was-
Soviets
when I
who
was an
invaded
ally-
his country with atheism.
When I was an ally with Russia, I was the most
Soviet
powerful
Union.
country in. Oh, thank you, Soviet Union. Okay, I don't know.
Sovietsky
Right?
Soyuz.
When I was an
Russians,
ally
they're all
with the
No, they're
Soviet
not.
Union,
Russians.
right?
Russian
I was
nationalists.
the most powerful country in East Africa. I had
Look at this
power.
guy. Look at
I
the
had
ridiculous
power.
attempt of this guy of getting
I
under
know.
my skin, man.
I had the power.
He's
I
good
had
at it,
the-
he's
listen,
good at
that.
As a
System is nothing
Somali,
other than Russian
I had the
nationalism.
power. Listen to me, man. As a Somali, I had the power. Like my army power, my weaponry, and the way the Somali were at that time could not be compared to any African power at that moment.
okay,
you
all right,
understand?
All right, so
We liberated 4 African countries.
What about Egypt? Egypt was backed by the British. It had
I
troops
said-
trained
I
by
said
the British.
North and Northeast Africa. Even compared
okay,
to
okay.
Central Africa,
Okay.
good Central.
50s.
Okay,
all of
wait,
that.
wait, so going back to it, because we were
Go on.
talking originally about this hypothetical
Until
scenario,
he came, yeah.
in which case,
Yeah.
in which there was a large sort of demographic change in Somalia, and you said, well, I wouldn't mind, if they were contributing to society and they were respecting our values, our way of life, that would be okay. But my point to you is, at what point do you start saying, you know what, even if you are contributing to a society and integrating, at what point do you say it's too much? Because surely when the population of Somalia becomes 60% white Christian, you start thinking in terms of, we're not really interested in how well you're integrating. We're kind of interested in how, in the demographic change of what's happening to
why
our
are we
to our
discussing
culture.
that? Because the likelihood of a population changing by that degree is,
But no,
so
I'm saying purely.
unlikely.
I'm saying purely theoretically, just to get an understanding of how much he values sort of the role, the ethnicity role in culture, basically. Because that was the original discussion before you came. We were talking sort of ethnocentrism.
Right, but I think the
and
person
nationalism.
who posed the question had a pretext for asking it in the first place. He was using Somalia as an analogy to talk about something else, and we never quite got to hear
Was it
that.
Raj?
Like what?
Was it Raj or was it the
Poor
other
guy
guy?
here is
Oh,
answering
I
all
think-
these questions
was
about
it Sam?
I don't
Somalia.
remember who it was.
You could ask the same question of any country. Why don't we ask it of Ukraine? Ukraine's in a situation where it's being colonized right now by the Russians.
Yeah.
Well, it's been colonized
You
during
like the
the
word
Soviet
colonize,
Union.
don't you? The thing is, this guy, he likes the word colonize.
Sorry.
Because
The
he's been
Russians
saying that.
invaded the
It
territory
was it was
Ukraine.
even worse than
Okay?
colonialism
They took the territory
because
of Ukraine.
look, guys,
That's an invasion,
it was even worse than colonialism because it
Then
was
they
an
moved
open
Russians in.
extermination of the people who lived there and an open importation of a new people to those exact lands. It wasn't like you were occupying those lands and ruling the people who are there. It was like you're exterminating and exchanging them by a new population.
So
Yeah.
how do
In
you
Eastern
feel about
Ukraine,
that?
that's what
Why
we
do you
got.
ask him how he's got direct experience of it?
Well,
He doesn't.
Not direct. I wasn't the
Okay,
one suffering
but it's
from
part
it.
of your
but-
culture. It's part
Well,
of
yeah,
what you-
yeah,
right.
of my
So
history,
why don't we
yes, of
ask
my
him?
history.
He's got direct experience.
Sure, I could ask him as well.
Yeah, sure. Look, in a situation like that, it was terrible because look, the whole thing happened because the Soviets wanted the Ukrainians to make part of the kolkhoz system, which means it's the collectivist system in which they remove all the production and they give back the bare minimum for people to
Yes,
survive,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
The Ukrainians didn't want to participate in it because there was a lot of production in Ukrainian lands because it's very fertile. There was a lot of big farms, big proprietors of farms, and they were producing a lot, right? It was the seller of Europe.
So what we can say is that
They refused it. Wait. Let me just
change
finish.
of
I'm almost
situation-
finished.
that
I'm almost
change of
finished.
population
I'm almost,
is only likely
I'm almost
to happen
finished.
in a war situation.
I'm almost
I know.
finished.
I'm not talking. I'm not saying that it's plausible
Anyway.
that such a vast change in demographics will happen in a short space of time. I'm just saying. Part of the reason I asked him is because I'm saying, ethnicity matters basically.
does a
Because
lot,
when Raj was
very
here,
much.
he was saying,
It
how much
matters to
does
some people.
race
It doesn't matter to others. I think that's basically what
Does
we
it-
could say.
Right,
I mean, I'm
I-
Irish, British, European. Part of my family's American. I've lived all over the place. If I'm asked what I am, I'm not sure what I am. It
Wait a
doesn't bother
second.
me.
When he said you're British, you said no, I'm Irish.
Yes, because I wanted him to understand that people don't belong in one box necessarily. In fact, most people belong. Right, you're a Somali, a British person, right? Well, there's two. boxes
Wait, no,
on
but
this.
he's not British though.
I'm not.
He chooses to
you
be
live here.
Somali.
I'm citizen.
But
I'm not
but
there you
I'm a
are.
citizen
being
of
British
Britain.
doesn't mean you're a British.
That means you're partly British. That means you're partly
I wasn't born
British.
here as well.
It doesn't matter where you're
I-
born.
no, no,
You're a
I am
citizen.
a- I am
and
a
you're
But being a
citizen.
citizen doesn't make you British. though.
I'm a
You, like-
citizen of
Well, it
Britain.
does.
I'm Somali.
No,
It's a
no, there's
You're,
a- there's
you're
a-
not really
agglomeration
British.
of many
If you're either
different
not
things.
born here or you haven't been naturalised here. How are you British if you're either of those two things don't pertain?
Because there is a wider English identity, and I say English rather than British, and he understands this because he's not culturally Christian and he's not white and he doesn't have the shared history of the British of the English people.
Well, he
Exactly.
does because he's lived it. He's lived here for what? You've been living here most of your adult life.
I don't think he feels
You're
that
in your
way.
twen- Right, you're in your 20s, so he's
13
lived here
years
for
I've
10
been
or
living
15 years. There's no line you can say someone has to be here 20 years before they understand the culture or whatever. He's as British as anyone else, as far
Look,
as I'm
I don't
concerned.
think he is.
Let me try to
Wait a
show him.
second.
Let me try to show him from a different point of view. He's a white man, and if he came to Somalia as a British person, he will never be a
I
Somali.
will never be Somali.
Because being a Somali is an ethnicity and it's a tribe.
Well, this
But
is-
he
it's
will
a
be a
traditional-
Somali by nationality.
Fine. But you're comparing.
Like, I can't be English.
You're comparing.
I will never be English.
You're comparing a more traditional society to a very, very modern urban society. The majority of people in this country live in cities, right? The majority of
live in cities
Somalians don't live in cities.
We live in cities too. Well,
Of course
They
you
have
live in-
cities.
Listen, I said the majority. The
No.
majority of
The
Somalians.
No, you don't know
the majority
Somalia.
of Somalians live in the countryside.
No, Somalis divide into countrymen, herders, fishermen,
course it is.
and all that
Of
stuff,
course it is.
and city people. It's not like Britain where you've got farmers, city.
Yeah.
That's not how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
We've got different. We have different
Yeah,
group
so
of
you're
people.
denying that the majority of Somalians live in the countryside.
No, the majority of
But
Somalis.
even then,
It's
what
not
is- what's the
Somalians, by the
significance?
way.
The
Somalis.
significance is that when you come to then talking about, I can't remember what the original question was after,
Whether or not he's British just by having a
right.
British
Well,
citizenship.
I would say he is. I mean, I find it strange. I mean, you said he's a white guy. Here's a white guy telling you you're not British, even though you've lived here for 10 or 15 years.
But he agrees
I
with
would
you.
say, fine, but you've got to understand that the state and the rest of society views him as a British. He has the same rights as a culturally and ethically.
On the paper sheet, when they're asking my nationality, I put Somali. I don't put
But
British.
have you got a Somalian passport?
No, I've got a British passport,
Right.
but because on my passport nationality it says Somali. If in my passport if it said nationality British, then I'd be like,
So
okay.
you've got a British passport in which it says your
I still have my
nationality is Somali.
Yeah,
He can have a double
But also, wait,
nationality.
hang on. But I just want to know, why is it different? Because you said like, oh, but Britain is a more modern, urban society, whatever.
in
Like,
tra-
why is that different?
Because in traditional societies, the idea of there's a more, I don't want to use the word pure, but a more agreed view of what being Somali is. Whereas in this country, because of intermarriage and all kinds of different cultural, we find ourselves with many different boxes that we can put ourselves into in terms of if we're asked, what are you? Define yourself.
So it's because they're more homogeneous, basically, culturally and ethnically.
You could put it that way, or you could say they're less. They're not. They're a pre-modern society.
Okay,
so-
look, guys, let me throw this at the table.
Okay.
England has its name because of the tribe Angles,
Yeah.
Whatever.
a tribe that migrated from northern Germany. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all because. So it is
controversy.
because of the
It's an
ethnicity
identity.
after all.
Yeah, it is. And I would say, because you say, it doesn't apply. It's different when it's a more modern society. What about Japan then? I will never be a Japanese citizen if I go to live in. If I tried, I could live in Japan. I could become a Japanese citizen. I could relinquish my British sort of identity. But I will never be Japanese.
You know what? You're
and
right.
They're a modern, advanced sort
That's
of.
not
He's
quite
right,
true.
he's right.
What does it say? It used to be. The further you go back, that used to be the case. But if you marry,
But do you have like a
Japanese
double
and you
citizenship,
become
or is it only
Japanese,
British citizen?
Only British. Because I've got like all
there's
my
a very
passports that got
strong
expired.
tradition
I've got them in the
Japan
same
says
bag.
You're not quite Japanese, but in the cities, that's beginning to change. I mean, there was a
Maybe the more in the sort of cosmopolitan man's
Yeah, but that's
view.
important.
Then yes,
Yeah,
but I would never feel
the bulk-
Japanese.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. What you seem to be, okay, we can give our personal anecdotes about hypotheticals. I'm not sure that's
Okay.
good. What I'm trying to do is make the general case that in modern culture, the majority of humanity now is living in cities. That is, they're living in urban environments where there's a lot of different people, most of whom are strangers who they'll never know, never meet. So they have to find some sort of accommodation, and I kind of think that works away at people trying to sort of box themselves in one box as to who they are. They can be lots and lots of different things. One of the things about living in a city is you can live anonymously. You can have an anonymous or a secret part of your life. If you
Is
want.
that more boxing yourself than having, choosing
We're
an
spread
identity?
across-
Boxing yourself to
we're
live
spread across
anonymously.
Many more different kinds of cultural experiences, ethnic, food experiences, religious experiences than is possible if you're living in a village in a traditional society.
And it's not working well for London.
It's working very well.
Really?
Yes.
Diversity is working well for
That
London.
is working very well indeed. Look at our economy. Look at
Are
the
you
fact-
Sadiq Khan in disguise?
No, I'm not. Sadiq Khan can speak for himself, although we're part of the same party. Over 150 languages are taught in these schools. Most people get on with one another quite well. I mean, we have got issues.
Is it a
with
good
young-
thing that 150 languages are taught? Is that like I don't know why is that
I think it's
objectively?
I think it's a great thing. Children accept each other. I mean, if you've ever been to primary school, you'll see kids accept each other and they get on with one another, and that's fine. The problem comes with adults who see difference or they see superiority and inferiority.
Nobody's talking about superiority
London is a much
inferiority.
better city than, for instance, Paris. That segregates its ethnic.
Wait, you just
minorities,
spoke
that
about
pushes-
against superiority, inferiority, and then you say London is much better than Paris.
I didn't quite catch the first point.
Okay, you said people care about superiority, inferiority, and you criticize it, right? And then you say London is much better than Paris. So you're also under
I'm
that
not agreeing with
quality.
the superior and inferior. I'm saying that
You're saying
that
London is better than
I'm
Paris.
saying that some people who are against this idea of lots and lots of people that's how they view superiority and inferiority if they're adults and they're against it. But most adults are get on with it. There isn't an issue for most people.
Okay, sure.
So okay.
I mean, I'm not saying there are no. I'm not saying significant political support or demonstrations in the street to say stop immigration. There's too many languages spoken in our schools. I'm just not seeing it.
Okay, look, I understand your point. Let me tell you.
I mean, the
part
majority
of my
of
point
people
about this.
agreed with Enoch Powell at the time he gave his
No, they
speech.
do not.
With who?
No, did at the time.
No,
Wait,
no,
what did you say?
The majority of British of the British electorate agreed with Enoch Powell when he gave his
With
representative.
who?
Enoch Powell, you know the guy who gave
You
the
were not alive at that time. I was.
I understand
Enoch Powell spoke for a strict minority. He was sacked out of the Conservative Party.
Is it the guy who said
Sorry.
rivers of blood?
Yes,
I need
yes.
to correct the record. You probably don't know who Enoch Powell is.
Man, I just said the quote that he said. Obviously, I know Enoch Powell. I just didn't hear what he said. Come on,
He's
man.
factually wrong. Enoch Powell never spoke for a majority in this country. There were anti-Enoch Powell demonstrations. There were all kinds. The Anti-Fascist League was founded when I was at university at the time, which I joined. The only people that explicitly in our society that explicitly supported them was a rump of the Tory party, the taxi drivers and the dockers of East London, who came out and paraded up against in front of Parliament, saying get rid of the blacks. Right. He was always a minority. He never spoke for a minority.
So, but you're saying okay, there were anti-Enoch Powell demonstrations from like the Anti-Fascist League. So do you consider him a fascist then?
I consider him as a proto-fascist.
Really? Why? Why? Do you not think that he had a valid point for saying
Nope.
for being concerned
Nope.
about immigration?
Enoch Powell's worldview was the worldview of Winston Churchill. He basically took the view that the British Empire was nothing other than good, and he regretted the fact that the British Empire came to an end in the Second World War. In fact, his greatest regret in life, and this is really sad, he said, "My greatest regret was not dying with my comrades during the Second World War," because he was a military man. And
Yeah, I know.
He was decorated. Okay.
I think he was very interesting. I think he had a great life, to be honest. I think he was a very great individual.
Fine, but you know.
Is that? I think that's fine to say that. Oh, I wish I died with my comrades.
Fine. I'm not saying it's not fine. I'm saying it's a bit sad. But there you go. The fact is, he lived a long time after the Second World War, and at the end of his life, having had quite a long career, to say I wish I died in the Second World War with my comrades, I just said it was a bit sad. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right, fine.
But the simple fact about Enoch Powell is. He was always on the right of the Tory party. I mean, and forget, the right of the Tory party in the 70s doesn't bear any comparison. You know, this was anti-Semitic. It was openly racist. Okay, I can introduce you if you come down here another time to the head of the Young Conservatives that was banned for being too racist. He's a friend of mine now.
All right.
Okay. Right. And that was only banned in the 80s. But I mean, go back further in the 70s. The Tory party was wild, okay? And Enoch Powell was seen as a great thinker. He was resolutely anti-European. He wanted the British to leave. Why? Because he believed that the British Empire could be resurrected. The greatness of the British people could be expressed outside of the European tradition. And the majority of the Tories voted to go into the European Union and were quite happy up until very recently. So that put him in a minority. I don't think he was ever in the majority on any issue.
Right. But my point was.
I like how you know very well about your history.
Yeah, and you do. And look, as you say,
I
you were
respect
alive
you,
then.
I respect you
So
very
I
much.
can't say.
Now, the reason I have revisited the subject of Enoch Powell is that this year was the 50th anniversary of the Rivers of Blood speech. There have been no rivers of blood. There have been no race riots in this society. We have accepted people from all over the world. We have 150 languages, and there have been no inter-ethnic group wide violence in the society. So he was completely wrong in his prediction. The other thing is that the Rivers of Blood speech was investigated. There were, there was a documentary made about this, and basically, his argument was that he met two people.
Yeah, I
in
know,
the
one
street.
of his constituents.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one. Right. And so and what he simply did was replay their racist, non-educated, non-informed prejudices, and he did that at an event at the West in Smethwick Tory Club, and he did it specially for the news cameras. He had an advisor who was a news producer, so they timed it, and it was lit for television.
Yeah.
So he knew exactly he wanted to pour race hatred straight into the sitting rooms of the British people, and the British people heard it. He was sacked before he left by Ted Heath, before he left the meeting, and he was roundly criticised for the speech.
Yeah.
You can look at the media. Some of the media supported him. Most of the media said, no, this is not British.
Right. I don't understand why you frame it as race hatred, or why you frame the concerns of the constituents
his supporters
as
said, send the blacks back.
So they expressed a concern with immigration in an
that's race
inarticulate
hatred,
way.
That's race hatred.
That's right, but they expressed a valid concern in an inarticulate way. So they weren't particularly educated.
You're trying to euphemize. I don't know why you, as someone who came a long time after Enoch Powell, who is a footnote in the history of the Conservative Party. There were no commemorations during the year of the 50th anniversary. There were no commemorations. There were no documentaries made. There was nothing happened in the Tory Party. There wasn't a single speech made by anyone on the anniversary.
Yeah.
Right. So
because everyone dismisses him as this crazy old racist now who shouldn't have been saying what he said.
Well,
the Tory Party's ashamed of him.
Maybe that history should decide these things. Maybe history has decided this.
Sorry. Sorry, come in.
I was going to say that did he accept like certain amount of immigration in regards to demand for mercenaries?
I don't know the ins and outs. I think he wasn't opposed like completely to immigration. He probably would have been fine. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. He might have done.
Well,
I didn't actually.
Okay, right.
What he could have expressed, legitimately expressed, was a sudden influx of mostly Asian Indians into his area, into this area, because Smethwick was a reasonably poor part of the area, and naturally that's where migrants will go, because that's where you find the cheap accommodation.
Yeah.
Now, that could have been done in much the way that I've just done it, but he chose to do it in a sensational way. He chose to do it in a racist way. He chose to do it with impact on television.
As politicians do.
No, but he did not clear that with either the Prime Minister or the Cabinet before he did it. Okay,
Right.
and that wasn't government policy, and
Right,
that's
yeah.
why he was sacked.
Yeah.
He was sacked for presenting his personal, as far as I'm concerned, racist bias as somehow the policy of the government, which it wasn't.
Yes.
Basically, I'm kind of interested in regards to like why he got in regards to like why he was getting sacked for, like
What he was against.
why he was getting sacked for, because even though he's working for the government, like certain people that work for the government, when they like a bit racist as well, like institutional racism, stuff like that.
Yeah, there were people with prejudice across all parties.
Yeah, but there's a difference, and I'm not saying it's better. There's a difference in having private thoughts of this and expressing it privately, and going on television and giving the impression that this is government policy. Okay, that's the difference. That's the big difference, and that's why he was sacked.
But even though
I think he was representing his constituents more than his party.
I'm not sure. He certainly represented a group within the Smethwick Conservative Party Yeah, that's true. But you know, his constituents. Remember, an MP represents not only people who vote for him, but everyone in the constituency. And given there was a reasonably high immigrant population, I doubt very much if he spoke for them.
Oh, I'd agree.
Well, there you are. So he didn't represent his constituents.
Well, not all of them, obviously, but who does? No, you can't represent every single one of your constituents.
But the point is that MPs, when they speak at any meeting, have to take care to sound like they're representing their constituents and not come out with, extreme bias. No, I mean, he is a footnote in British electoral history. He was a great speaker. I mean, the thing about Enoch Powell, he was a great orator. He had a great voice and all the rest of that, and he wrote great speeches. Yeah. And he was a linguist. He was a very exceptionally intelligent man.
He was a classical scholar when he was
25. Right. And to me, the heart of his racism was to do with his love of ancient Greece. He thought the ancient Greek society was the model that we should be aiming for, but unfortunately that's not the modern world we live in.
No, we're obviously not going to agree over whether or not he was a
you
racist.
Offered an argument. The simple fact of the matter is that legislation...
But I don't reject the whole racism allegation.
But the simple fact of the matter is that legislation allowing entry into Britain from the ex-empire, especially India, had been passed by the government. So this is the context in which, right? So Powell, being an intelligent man, being a cabinet minister, knew that the law had been passed. You know, that watershed had been passed, and he knew there was a racist minority in this society, and he felt that he wanted to radicalize and tell them that I, as a very establishment figure, a very highly educated person, I'm with you. And that's what happened. All the racists came out. The number of racist attacks and racist murders in the society went up. Everything racist went up straight after that speech.
Okay, but when you say I haven't offered...
And yet Enoch Powell never stood up and said, look, I made the speech, but anyone who's taking the law into their own hands and doing this, that and the other should stop doing it. Don't do it in my name.
Well,
he never made that statement.
Right, I guess he
never made that statement.
Fine.
By the way, look, you're right about the passport thing, because it says British citizen. What does it say in yours? Does it say just British, or it says British citizen in your passport?
We had a conversation about what it says in the passport.
I have two passports, so I have Irish and British.
But yours though, what does it say? Does it say you are British, or just say?
Yeah, well,
British
I'm born, depending on your point of view, in Britain or in Ireland. I don't want to get into that. Yeah. But there you go.
Okay, wait, let's establish something.
Yeah.
What defines a person as belonging to a certain nation?
Down to the individual to answer for themselves, because each person has their own take on it.
Okay.
Wait, so that just means anyone can identify with whatever nationality they want to be?
Culturally, beyond the legal minimums that you have documents allowing you to reside and to leave and go, which is a legal minimum. But we're talking about culture, and culturally we're all very, very complex. I don't know about you people. I like Japanese films. I watch. I like Arabic food. We're all in the modern world. We're a mishmash. We're a hybrid.
But can we not say through that process that you're talking about, mixing up with everybody, that the British or the English culture is slipping away slowly?
No, it's developing in another new way.
Because let's just say if an African from Africa marries into a British family and then they keep marrying within African people,
miscegenation
that means
is
slowly what would happen is that the African culture would overtake, or there might be a mishmash of both cultures and something new might come out. That means you would lose the original culture.
Or both of the two groups that you meet start being influenced by all kinds of other cultures. They make friends. They work at different companies.
So they lose their culture. There's something being lost.
But the underlying idea here is that somehow there's something unique or that's unchanging or always valuable about a single particular culture. Surely. Most cultures are pretty similar. They want to protect the old and the young. They want people want to have families, and they want their children to have a better life than they did. They want to live without war. They want to be happy.
Yeah,
there's also a lot of differences between
that's the problem that's going on in the West nowadays. That's a problem that's going on in the West nowadays, because that's a problem that's going on in the West nowadays, because it's devaluing the importance of children. in society.
And grown-ups, old people.
And also
elderly.
grown-ups, yeah. I've heard many
The West includes
many
Japan,
people.
by the way. So the West includes some places like Japan and South Korea.
Well, right now I'm talking about the West more
No,
in
it does.
Europe.
They're democracies.
In the Western
That's only
Europe.
if you define West as
Location.
meaning
Gen-
democracy.
Generalizing across.
Okay, but
you
you're
know, the West
generalizing
is
a lot.
difficult.
So Australia, the
we could
US,
talk about
Brazil
European
is
society.
also the
Let's say
West in that
European,
case.
Because basically in Japan, I mean, the Japanese are very strong on family and looking after older relatives and extended families. In this country, extended families are, you know, we tend to live in smaller nuclear families. Extended
Basically,
families.
everyone
tend
cares
to-
about you. Only care about your wife and
Japan
children.
is very
You don't
different.
care about your
The
dad, your
situation in Japan
granddad.
is very
Well, it's not
different.
that we don't care.
Because
It's
you know,
just that we don't
I know
live
an
with
old
them.
man. You know
We
how
don't
many
live
old
with
people
them.
I know who live in like care homes, and wallahi, I swear, their own children don't come to see them. One time I was speaking to this
Well,
elderly
you're
woman.
generalizing.
She's like,
You're
I have
generalizing. Look,
9.
Look,
No,
I
he's
have to
right,
tell
he's
you,
right.
Given that I'm closer
She
to
said
a
I
care
had
home
9
than you are,
grandsons, and they had more sons and sons, and
You're
they despise me.
generalizing.
They can't see me.
You're generalizing on the negative.
Now,
Look,
ask, you know
need
how
to
many old
understand.
people I was speaking to,
You
and
need
they've
to
given me the same
understand.
answer.
You need
And
to
when you see
understand
the
that
care
some
homes,
people,
same
some older people, want to go and live separately from their families. Some people
it's
want
true,
to be
it's true.
independent. But
Yeah,
some
true.
people,
pretty
and some
rare for
families-
them to want to
so we
separate
But
from their
can't-
culturally,
children.
since we're speaking about culture, as a Somali, culturally, for me, for my mother,
I
my
understand.
dad to
It's
live
a more
away from
traditional
me,
society.
it's an immorality in my
Fine.
culture. You can't allow that. If I
You're
get
a more
old,
traditional society.
Exactly, but that's
Although you
better.
are.
But you're
Right.
losing.
So
isn't
we
it?
were a more
It
traditional
comes back.
society.
It comes back because
We
back
were
in,
a more traditional
But you
society
lost it.
before the Second World War.
But you lost it.
Look,
No, we
look,
moved
look,
in a
look,
diff-
look.
We have developed in a different
Just
direction.
because it's a
We have
traditional
moved in a
society
different
Not necessarily
direction.
for the
doesn't mean it's
better,
a
I
bad
don't think.
society.
Well, fine. There are pluses
There are good
and there are
things and
negatives.
bad things
The-
about
the- the-
traditional
the-
societies.
Fine, but we can't go backwards. You know, we can't reinvent the past. We can't take a time machine.
Yeah, we shouldn't go
even though
backwards.
No, we
like
can
to.
do it again,
even,
though.
Even
Look,
though
we
the
can
conservative
implement some
perspective,
rules that we've lost
you know, likes
that
to
are
think that
useful.
we can go back or we can have a favourite point in the past, which is never defined by conservatives. It's always about 50 years in the past. So you know, we'll hear. You know, I'm sure we'll hear with Boris Johnson now. You know, with the. You know, the flag.
I don't know what
being
we're going
used.
to hear with it. but-
I think we're going to hear, you know, things were better 50 years ago or
You reckon?
whatever. But anyway, I don't believe that. We're condemned to go forward. We live in the modern world and we're condemned
Yeah, but
to go
moving
forward.
Yeah,
forward
obviously.
is to
Make the
care
best
for,
of it.
for your own people as well. Look,
Yeah.
you see, right now what we see in this world today, yeah, especially in the Western world or in Britain or America, is that the young people.
Yeah, you're making the same
No,
point.
no,
you're
no, no,
generalizing
it's not-
again, and we don't look after
This
our
is
own.
the reality.
thing
Can
is
I-
about
can I speak?
children,
Can I-
because children
what's
are-
what I'm saying?
okay,
Let me
go
make this one point. Sorry about
Sorry,
that. Yeah?
how
let
do
me
we
make-
not look after our children?
Let me make one point.
Abortion.
Oh, you want to talk
First
about
point?
abortion?
Yeah,
Yes.
one second. Before we get there,
I
I'd like to
don't
make a point.
I don't really want to talk about
I would
abortion. And by the
like-
way, we
I would like to
we
make a
don't
point.
abort children.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
I would like to make
No,
one
we
point.
don't.
I'd like to make one point
we
on this,
don't.
yeah? You see, right now what we have is
Children are entities that are born and have their own independent status from the mother. Unfortunately, fetuses up to a certain age
Oh, here we go.
Have you ever seen a fetus walk
Here
around?
we go. Okay, so
you ever seen
if
a
a
fetus
child
walk
is
around?
inside the mother's belly a few seconds
no child,
before
it's called
birth,
a fetus.
it's not a child,
It's called
it's
a
a fetus.
fetus.
And on the
wrong.
moment that
I
it
agree with
emerges
that.
from the
It's not
vagina,
a
it
pizza until
becomes
the
a
pizza
child.
comes out of the oven.
You must be joking, man.
pizza has
Get
to
out
come
of
out of the
here.
oven.
Get out of here, man. Makes no sense.
Another
Zero sense.
fundamentalist
Zero
Christian
sense.
nonsense.
How
You
do you
mean
feel?
Christian?
No, how about
It's not
this?
even a religion, bro.
You're definitely a
How
Christian.
about
aren't you?
even religious.
You are.
So we've done
Are you
with
married? Are you married?
That's fucking terrible.
What's that going to do?
No. Let's just say you're married and your wife aborted your child. How would that make you feel?
Well, what I would hope is if I was married, that I would have discussed that with the mother. I'd be very disappointed if the mother went off, and angry if the mother went off independently and did that.
But that's her body. But that's her body. She can do whatever she wants. I said.
No. Well, I'm
Oh, my
glad
body,
you,
my
I'm
rules.
glad you agree
Yeah.
with me. Ultimately, that's the case. But you would hope that an honest, loving relationship, you would discuss a major decision like that. You know.
But what does it worry you? Because it's just a little clot of blood. Like it's not even very well formed. It's not even a baby. Why would that worry you so much that she aborted it?
Because it would show that she's not willing to discuss major decisions in our relationship.
It's her body.
Why
Why would she have to decide
Well,
about
it's
her body?
but obviously in marriage, you would hope that people share things. I don't. It's a silly question.
So if, for example, if she's gonna go to the next shop, does she have to share about you?
Sorry?
If she's going to the toilet to take a shit, does she have to share that with you? Still,
That's a silly question.
that's not a silly question. It's the same thing about the baby abortion. This is something that's coming out.
You're equating a woman having an abortion with having a shit.
Yeah, because that's what you're equating to. You know what he said? It's like you know what he said?
That is your ideology. That is your ideology. I spoke with a vegan guy the other day, and he said that cutting a beef in half is no different from killing a fetus.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
That's what you said in the beginning. Look, anyways, I wanted to make a point before the abortion thing. Yeah. You see,
But I understand that you men want to control your women.
No, you're not a man. Okay, that explains everything.
no problem.
That
Women will do what
explains
they want,
everything.
and unfortunately, that's bad news for people like you.
What do you mean, men to want to control women? I want to have some control over my child. I want to have some choice whether my child lives or dies, man.
I hope you find a woman that's willing for you,
You know
to
what?
do that.
You know
Bro,
what?
it's also my child. It's not only her child.
Well, good luck to you.
But you know what?
Thank
I'm thankful that I'm Somali because
Good
my
luck to you
woman,
when you have a child
know-
that you want to have and then your wife just decides to abort it.
Yeah.
Well,
Good luck
that
to
has
you.
actually happened to me.
Wow. And you're still okay with abortion?
Yes, I am, because I don't
Wow.
see any way.
Well, you were just
I
angry
don't
about it.
see
You said you were
any
angry.
way. Look, I'm going to tell you a personal story now. No, you can laugh at it. Okay, well, I'm not going to share it with you. You're going to laugh.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. You made me laugh by saying I'm gonna laugh. You put the idea in my
Well, if
mind.
it's personal, maybe it's not the best place
people
here
make it
for
out
a
that they
personal
want to
story.
discuss how having a serious discussion about a serious moral issue. And
Okay,
when someone wants to discuss it, it's right. So
I didn't want to
If
get
it's
on
a
it.
personal
Anyway,
story,
change the subject.
you don't
Change
have
the
to tell it.
subject.
You don't have to say it, okay?
But
You
anyways,
don't
the
have
point
to
I
say
was trying to make is that we live in a world today, especially not much in Africa, but in the advanced world, where young people, right? They party all night. They do whatever they want. They don't have any idea of the. No.
That's not true.
Let's start.
That is. That's not true.
Let's start. Don't
The
interject.
majority
Don't
of children
interject.
under
Don't
18
interject.
are at home.
Don't interject.
Right? It's only a
Don't-
minority who are out partying,
don't
doing drugs, and
interject.
getting involved in gang activity.
Don't interject.
Simple fact.
You see, this is what happens. Yeah, at home, mom and dad are busy going to work. They leave their kids at nursery schools, and they trust their kids with the strangers. And for years, because mom and dad, can I finish, man? Why do you keep interjecting?
You're just generalising.
Don't
They're
interject.
left with professionally
I'm talking
trained-
about the
they're
system.
left with
No,
I'm
we
talking
all
about
know
the
not
system
all
of
kids
today.
go
You're just
out.
giving us a negative story
I'm
about
talking
the
about the
society.
system. I'm giving
Right.
you.
You're
I'm
not
telling
married,
you
you don't
the
have kids,
system.
you know what you're
I'm
talking
giving you the
about.
system. This is how the system is today. Well, I'm
You
trying to
don't know
tell
anything
you.
about the system.
The thing is, look, you see parents, right? They leave their kids in nursery schools.
Negative drumbeat, negative drumbeat.
Neglected, right? Neglected. And when they neglect their kids, later on when they get older and they retire, now they want to get to know to the kid, to the children.
Nonsense.
But the children have grown up without knowing them. And later on they
This is
wonder,
nonsense.
why are my
So-
kids
so
leaving
what
my
he-
home?
what he's
They go
saying
out
is that
there,
because
and then later
children go
on,
to
that's
nursery,
the reason
the rest
why
of the
these
day,
people, when they
they-
get old,
you're an idiot.
when they get old,
You're an idiot.
Because this is facts, and you
Nonsense.
know that.
Let's
You know
nonsense.
that.
Let's
Nonsense.
What do you mean
Nonsense.
I didn't even finish my point.
Parents
Why?
spend
nonsense.
parents spend
Why are
2/3
you
of the day with their
this-
children.
this-
You
wha-
fool.
How many days? How many?
At least 2/3 if they send their children to nursery. You moron.
2 days what?
2/3 of
you
the
guys-
day.
Guys.
How do you know he's not right about this?
Because I have
Have you got
a
kids?
large extended
Have you got
family.
kids?
No, I haven't. I'm not married. But
sure,
I
it's your
have
personal
right. I have a large family, extended family. My sister has been married 3 times. She has 8 children from the different relationships. I've just finished doing my Christmas presents and writing the Christmas cards. I'm telling you, it's an ordeal. All right.
Okay, good.
I mustn't
For you
leave anyone off.
For you
Okay,
personally.
right?
We're talking
No,
about the
they've all
majority
been
of people.
they've all been to nursery because my especially my sister and my brother-in-law were professional people. They went to nursery, but nursery is 3 or 4 hours a day or 5 hours or whatever it is, and they were picked up by my grandmother right after, and then they stayed with her, and then they've got the evenings and the night. The idea that children don't know their parents because they go to nursery is
That's
it's
not what I
insane
said.
idea.
That's not what I
It's
said.
insane idea.
That's not what I said. Quote me properly. I said, look, parents.
But in any
No, no,
case,
I'm talking about
Somalia is not a better
I'm talking-
society. You don't even have any nurseries, do you?
Okay, sure,
well,
it's not a
but-
better society, but we're not talking about Somalia now. We're talking
Not
about the
only
West.
that,
And the
not only
West
that.
has flaws.
Somalia is a better
We're talking about
society, I
these
would say,
flaws.
when it comes to looking after your kids and respecting your elders and keeping up to culture and respecting other people. We are
more
a better
traditionalist.
society.
It's more
yeah, tradition. This is why I said tradition is very important.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
It's
It
very,
absolutely
and the
is.
fact that you're losing that tradition in Britain, you're losing your culture.
We've adopted
is
our
the reason
tradition. We're
why
not
the
losing our
elders.
culture.
This is why
You're sounding like Enoch Powell. We're not losing our culture.
you are.
Our culture is
Your culture-
improving. Our culture is becoming more
But that's
hybrid.
why-
And by the way, we look
why do you
after
think-
children in
why
this
do you
country
think so
better
many-
than
Look,
most countries.
See, I'm not gonna lie
There's your
to you.
answer.
You're the first person that I've met who's white, yeah? I'm not, I have to be honest with you, yeah? No, that I've met who's talking about being English and being proud and you know what I mean, and culture. I haven't, unless they're very extreme like the EDL, those are not.
Oh, the EDL.
Those guys are not talking about.
I'm probably worse than them, but
Are you worse than them?
Yeah, but
I'd say they're not as right wingers.
that's the difference.
Oh!
That's the difference between being nationalistic and patriotic. You can be patriotic and left wing. You
Yeah.
can go off and serve your country, die, whatever. But that doesn't mean you come back and you're rabidly nationalistic.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Wait a second. Patriotic means comes from patria, from the place where you're from.
Yes, I
Nation. It's exactly
It's
the same.
nationalism.
well, well, no, it's not exactly the same, but there's a vast overlap.
And politically, it's not the same.
But anyways,
Sure,
okay,
if you
the
say
point
so.
I was
Anyway,
trying to
sorry,
make, the
sorry,
point I
yeah.
was trying to make is that the things that I see, like for example, elders. I mean, he's right. Maybe he's right. Maybe there are people
But
who
you're
wanna.
just- you're just
Maybe
about to
there are
make-
people.
you're about
Maybe
to-
there are people
you're about to
who
take
wanna.
make the
Who
same
wanna.
point again.
There are people who wanna be in care. He's right. Maybe there are. But I've spoken to older people, right?
So
where
what-
I work,
so how-
there's this old
where
man.
do you work then?
There's this old
Where do
man.
you work?
He's disabled.
Where
I'm
do
not
you
gonna
work?
tell you where I work.
What do you do? You work. So what do you do?
I don't have to. I'm not
What do you
gonna
do?
tell you what I
I've
do.
answered my-
Say where we
You
work,
asked
man.
me
I won't
questions
tell
whether I
you-
was married.
I won't
So
tell
where,
you-
generally speaking, do you
I won't
work?
tell you my occupation.
So you work in the care
I'm not
sector?
gonna
You work
give
in the
you
care
my- I'm not
sector?
gonna give
You
my-
want his
So you're
bank card
making it
number
up.
and the PIN
You're
code.
making it up. You're making it up as you go along.
Now the thing is this, I spoke to this older man, he's
Fuck
disabled,
off.
yeah, and he's bended, like he can't even walk properly. He walked from a distance to the shop. And you know what, he's got grandsons. And he told me, they're not even with me, they don't even say hello to me. But I would love that they came to me, my kids and my children.
Yeah.
But guess what he said? This how
So you work in the care
the way the
sector.
system is, I don't know them, they don't know me anymore. I feel abandoned.
Well, they've got you as a friend.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but at least like it's really important to like
You know,
try one day. What's your name?
Pandana.
What's your name?
Sorry?
What's your name?
Jacob.
Jacob, one day just try to speak to elder, super old person
Yeah, I have.
who looks a bit, and then ask them
So
about
we've
why
listened-
they are in
okay,
this
so-
position,
so
and
you've
then
gone
see
on-
what the answers
you've
they
gone
give you.
on
I mean, my elderly relatives
Okay.
are quite satisfied.
So what's the
and content.
solution
Yeah,
to
but
this?
from your family, I understand,
So
but-
basically, you've listened and you've agreed with this guy saying.
Not
that-
entirely,
Okay,
but-
okay,
Not
okay,
entirely,
okay.
of course.
So our traditions have gone. So what's the solution? How do we reinvent this traditional culture where people
Restore family
people-
values.
listen,
Exactly,
Restore
thank
family
you.
values.
That is essentially it. That is
You fell
essentially
into
it.
the trap. Now, how many times have
How's
politicians
that
in this
trap?
country said, "Oh, let's bring back family values"? How many?
Because it's
How many
important.
times
But they're
has it
politic,
happened?
they're politicians.
You
Bro,
family
can't-
is
You
important.
can't reinvent
Family is
the
so
past.
important.
You can yearn for it. You can hope that it comes back.
Okay,
but you
look,
can't
look.
go back.
You can't go back.
You have to
No
go
one's going
forward
back.
from
You
where
can't
you
go
are.
back, but you can direct the way where you go. You don't have to go in a
Thank you.
straight
You
line
can
down
use
the
ideas
cliff.
from the past
Yeah.
to direct
You
your
can
You
Hi.
learn
progression into the
history,
future.
so you learn
Hi.
with the mistakes of
Hi.
the past.
So,
Okay, wait,
okay,
one thing.
okay. So
One thing
what
you
are
could do
what are you going to
is
do then?
just give
Are
more
you-
power to the church.
Okay,
That's
so what are you
why
going
all
to
the
do?
people
Are you
go
going
through
to
what
say,
they're
are you going to bring in a law which basically says all families have to keep their elder relatives in the home with them?
No, man, it's
So
not
how are you
that
going to change the
extreme.
culture then?
There has to be
Only
a way.
have,
How are
look,
you going to change the culture?
have to encourage people to care
people
about their
have chosen
families.
to not have their relatives at home. Sometimes
They're
the families
chosen
are-
based
right.
on
So
the
how are you going to
propaganda
change
they're
that?
given.
Exactly.
People need to be encouraged
Through movies
to
and films and
exactly.
stuff.
They've
Exactly.
chosen.
Because
You've
people
come
buy
along.
cars,
You've got
you're-
people
you're-
telling me.
you're-
The media, man.
You're
the
a
media
20-year-old.
influences people
People
that
have
way.
chosen this over the last 40 to 50 years. and you're
with
coming
the
along
media,
saying,
man.
"Oh, stop
Oh
it,
my
don't
God,
do
you've
it."
got to be joking. You don't know the media influences society in any way.
Of course I do, but you seem to be saying that we should just get it into our national mind, and suddenly people will stop doing what they've been doing for 40 years.
Just family, simple,
Just because
basic
you come from
family
a country,
values.
Culture starts
Ukraine,
from
where
family.
probably they
You know
live like
what?
that.
There you go. There he goes with the xenophobic attacks.
No,
oh,
you
you're from
probably
Ukraine.
live in
You
a
don't know,
traditional
you don't
society
know.
like that, where you
Bro.
keep your grandmother in the corner and feed her with vodka.
Okay, you see the xenophobic attacks.
See what I'm saying?
Look at all the xenophobic
That's what you
attacks.
do.
That's the
Potatoes and
far
vodka.
left. That's the far left.
Is that how
No,
you
potatoes is for your
Now,
family.
if I said that about
Potatoes is
not
for your
my
family,
culture.
bro. Look, this
But
is
I'm
what I'm
willing
talking
to
about. The
bet
far
that
left
it's a
is more racist than the far
I'm
right.
willing to bet that it's a sociological fact that
Look at
there
this,
are
look at
more
this.
extended
I think-
families in
you know what I think,
Ukraine
yeah?
than
Look at
there
this
are.
guy.
in
Our
Look at this.
conversation is
traditional
affecting
society.
him because he is a neglected person.
No,
of
deep
both.
down he
When it's
understands
like,
he's
yeah.
not in the right. Deep down he understands this is all a bunch of baloney.
Maybe.
But he doesn't want to admit it.
Maybe you are. Maybe you have a certain
Oh,
history.
so
with
you're a
this, what we're talking
psychologist
about.
as well as being someone who works
Well,
in a care
mental
home.
psychologist, I like to call
Very
myself.
good. I mean, you're a multi-talented man.
Oh dear.
Anyway, look, I have
anyway,
one
look,
thing to
yeah.
say about abortion. Any society that treats their children like discardable lumps of meat has its days counted. That's all I have to say about
Say
abortion.
that again.
Any society that treats their children like parasites and like discardable lumps
This
of meat
society
has
does
its
not treat-
days counted.
We
Yeah,
do
but
not treat
who
our
do we- but who
we
do we
do
call
not
it
treat our
abortion?
children
It's
as
media, innit?
parasites.
Because of
Come on.
media,
Yeah.
abortion is
Yeah.
happening.
They
They've got
normalize it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Just kill your kids, man.
Yeah.
Just fucking kill your kids. It's nothing, it's just a lump of meat. It's not a baby. It's not a human.
Again, I don't
We
really
don't
want to
treat our
discuss
children
abortion,
as
but, like,
parasites.
Yeah, because you don't think a fetus is a child.
No, that's got nothing to do with people's individual opinion on abortion, which is a personal. You seem to want to sort of judge other people's personal morality. It's a private, personal matter which should be decided between a person's family, right, and their doctor. It's got nothing to do
I
with
want
you.
to
Do you
encourage-
understand?
I want to
Do you
encourage-
understand
I want to
that a
encourage
woman's choice
functional
with her husband to
behavior.
have an abortion
I
has
want
got
to
nothing
encourage
to
behavior
do with you?
that makes
It's
people
got nothing
survive
to do
in a
with
cohesive
you.
society.
It's got nothing
Exactly.
to do with you.
Exactly.
It's got nothing to do with
Bro,
you.
you don't give people
and you can't
absolute
accept
freedom
that.
because
You
people
can't
won't be
accept
able
it's
to
got
use
nothing
it.
to do with you.
Exactly. You don't tell
It's
people,
got nothing
okay,
to do with you. I don't tell people anything, but you would tell people
Yes, you
to
do.
stop having
Yes,
abortion.
you do. You
I don't
always
tell
tell
people
people
anything.
Would there not be certain things? Let's say if you were the state, would there not be certain
No,
things?
people
that you,
aren't the state. Let's
okay,
have a relevant hypothetical here.
Fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, fine. Let's say you are the head of state.
Well,
whatever.
what are the
Okay.
states?
Are there not
The
certain?
head of
what is
state
the
in this
state then?
state, sir, does
Reptilians.
not
It's
decide
Fine.
personal moral
the Prime
matters.
Minister.
The Prime Minister does not decide personal
Hypothetically, if you are the leader of a collective
in an
are there
authoritarian
not
state.
any collective? Are there not
said
certain
anything about
behaviours or
authoritarian?
values that you would encourage and others that you would discourage?
Yes, right. And the values which are being encouraged are liberal values,
Yes.
where the state butts out.
Yeah.
The only
Wait. Is this what you're
the
describing
only
now, or
thing
what you're
that the
describing?
state has to say about abortion is
Yeah.
that it sets up the law and the regulator, and then it says to the medical profession,
Yeah.
who this is a medical matter, sometimes in a medical emergency for the mother, it can kill the mother and it can also kill the fetus
Yeah.
if the fetus is not aborted. I don't know whether you're aware of that. It's a private matter. So yes,
I understand all that
yes.
now.
So the state, different politicians have decided the best way of dealing with this is for people to decide amongst themselves, and then if they qualify with a doctor who's prepared to do it, that's it. The state
Because the
doesn't
politicians have
doesn't
never been wrong.
anything more
Never
to say.
have. They're always
I know,
right.
but
Just bow your head
saying-
and trust the
I'm just saying
politicians.
a government still
We'll constantly
encourages
lie to-
inevitably
Well,
behaviour.
I'm sorry. Coming from Ukraine, you
Oh, there
don't
you go, there you
understand
go, again,
democracy.
again,
You don't
attacks against
understand
Ukraine.
democracy. You've
Bro,
lived in a
okay,
police
look,
state
I
your
could
whole
make
life,
so
like our
many
friend here.
Irish
You
jokes,
don't understand
so many Irish
democracy.
jokes, but I'm gonna contain myself
You don't
because I know
understand
other
liberal
Irish
democracy.
people. I'm going to contain myself. It's going to take some effort, but I'm going to contain
the
myself.
benefits from the right. From the right, a liberal state means basically the people are free to do things that are not illegal. That is the basis of the Tory party. It is if you want to understand what one of the great British values
Yeah, those
is,
evil
it's
racist
liberalism.
stories when this guy is making personal attacks against Ukraine. Very, very nice, very nice.
No, I'm telling
Very
you
nice, very
that
good.
your views are based on your experience of Ukraine, which is a backward country.
How the hell do you know my
It's a
views?
backward
How the hell do
country.
you know my
You
views?
just
Huh?
express them.
Oh, I expressed them.
early on,
Yes,
Doesn't seem
your
like you
views on
listen to
abortion.
them. Sure, sure.
Ukraine is a backward country, but
course it
Britain
is.
isn't.
Of course, Ukraine is a backward country.
Why is it a backward country? Tell me a reason.
Every country.
Oh, wait. It's a
Every
backward
country is
country because it was colonized by Russia.
Colonized by the Russian fascists.
That's the reason. By Russian fascists.
That's right.
Okay, by the Russian
The Russian
fascists.
fascists kept everyone they colonized in the past, including
Bro,
Somalia.
you know that Ukraine is fighting a war
Somalia.
against Russia right now.
Yeah, I'm talking
This
about
guy's
its entire
knowledge is
history.
just.
Yeah, Ukraine doesn't want to
I
be
don't- I
part
don't
of
know what to
Russia.
say.
Ukraine doesn't
It was.
want
You
to
know it was
have.
colonized.
No. It was,
Listen,
no.
it was
It
colonized.
was part of the
It was
Soviet
forced.
He loves the
Union.
word
I know. Look,
colonized.
I know your
Soviet
IQ is
Empire
not
was
high
made
enough
on
to
force.
understand this, but Russia and Soviet Union are two different things.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Ukraine has nothing
Yes,
to
they
do
are.
with
He just likes to make personal attacks. Wait. He'll refer to the Ukrainian president being a comedian soon. He always needs to make a joke about that.
Why is it
You have a
Give him some time, give him
comedian,
some time.
a non-funny comedian
Give him
as a
some time.
president.
Oh, you see that? There you go. There you
Why
go.
is it
There you
illegal
go.
to
Well,
kill
you
a
invited me
baby?
to do it, so I had to do it.
You know, it's like
Cut off.
like Pavlov's experiment. I can condition him to say whatever I want him to say.
I have.
Okay, well then make up your own mind. It's a personal moral thing. Okay, if you
No,
don't,
but
if you don't
it's
want,
illegal to
sir,
kill a
if you
baby
don't
that's
want to
been born.
have abortions in your family, don't do it.
I'm not saying
Well-
you shouldn't be allowed them. I'm saying the limit of when you're allowed.
Okay, the
is an
limit
issue
is
medically.
based on scientific evidence.
It's not. Because there's different
is.
limits in each country.
Come here,
From
bro,
the
come
USA
here, come
to
here.
UK.
Oh, okay, you don't want to
There
come.
are different scientific authorities in each country.
No,
which
this
there
is
are-
political
No,
matters. They're political matters. They're not scientific matters. Where it's
I'm going to
defined.
leave, lads. It's gone on to emotion again, but it's been good to talk to you all.
See you later, bro.
Take care, man. See you next time. Happy Christmas, yeah?
Thank you. You too. Happy New Year.
Well,
Well, we'll probably.
I wanted to ask you.
I hope so. I probably
wanna
won't
talk-
come next Sunday because I
Telling me,
have
go
some
away.
family, but hopefully 2 weeks.
So I wanted to ask you. Do you support
Have a nice
EDL?
Christmas.
Yes, I do.
You do support.
Yeah. It's okay.
Oh, friendship broken.
Friendship broken, bro. Khalas. Done.
No, EDL, haram, man.
No,
haram.
EDL, haram. I can't deal with
Anyway,
that.
okay, he's gone too. That's the
He
end.
seems friendly than EDL.
Yeah,
Like,
he's a pretty
he's
friendly.
a friendly guy.
He converted to Christianity not so long ago, actually.
He was an atheist.
He was. Yeah. I used to talk to him. When I spoke to him, when he told me that he converted, I asked him if he has anything to gain with it. He told me that yes, and I was like, okay, fine. You have something to gain
What
with
do you believe?
I'm an agnostic.
Agnostic. So you're not sure if God exists.
Yeah. God might exist. What's up, bro?
You and hijab?
Hijab.
One hijab.
Mohammed Hijab, right? Ah, okay. Yeah. Which one of them? There's like 2 or 3 with him.
You know, the tall one.
I know, but which video? I was in like 2, 3
There was
videos
one
with
where
him.
you guys logically broke down your belief in God. Remember? You guys sort of logically broke down
Yeah.
belief in God.
Okay. Based on the he used a thing like a paradox. I forgot the name. Infinite regression. Yeah, he used infinite regression.
I think it was the fact that nothing can't exist before something. That was the general. And I think. Did you agree with it, or did you say you're agnostic? So you don't believe in God?
No, I don't believe in any specific God, but God might exist. I don't think humans, with their flawed perception of the world, can say for sure that okay, this specific God is the one that
You're
exists.
saying humans don't have. They don't have the power.
But the way
Yes.
but the way you're
Yes.
saying it of how we think God exists is different. Because like for example, look, if in your mind if you're saying, okay, there is a God out there watching us and you're imagining
Okay.
something
Yep.
and this is the world, and in that case you're right, there is no God. You know what I'm saying? But if for example, now let's look into the laws of nature. Okay? I say this a lot of times, but this is something that may connect with you, right? You've
ahead.
got, for example, let's take the bees or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
as
of
simple
course,
as
of course,
that,
animals,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So
the thing with the bee is that it follows a certain pattern.
Of course. Yeah.
Which has a major effect on the ecosystem.
Yes,
if
of
you
course.
get rid of the bees, then a lot of things will go crazy.
The ecosystem changes.
Exactly, it changes drastically, which would have a
yes.
major effect on us.
Because they feed in each other.
Exactly.
Yep.
And these things were programmed to do what they do, in the way they do, right?
Okay.
Now the question is this.
How did this happen if there's no mind behind it?
No. Not only that. Now there's something else I would like to add to this. It's like the start of the universe, right? You see, we are all part of a massive energy. You understand? So as we know, in energy, we can't remove or add something into energy.
Yeah, it's
You know what
only
I'm saying?
transformed. Yeah.
It can only be transformed. However, in the Big Bang, when everything started, right, when everything came out of
That's
energy,
not exactly what Big Bang is.
But listen, because as what I know about the Big Bang, is like everything was a single point at some point.
Yeah, basically
And then-
everything was very condensed, and then
then-
the Big Bang, and that everything expanded. But
Expanded.
it's still a transformation. It's not like a creation.
But what
you know
was
I
it? What
mean?
was it within that?
We don't know.
We could have said, but energy was
don't
there.
know.
When we say energy was,
I don't know, man.
energy with it.
That's the problem. At that point, that far away
Yeah.
from human perception, our logic breaks down. We can't really say for sure what existed.
But
Like
we
I
can
can say
say-
it was God as easily as you can say
forget-
it was
I'm not
something
trying
else.
to
you know?
insert God yet. What I'm trying to say, since we cannot remove or get rid of energy, can we say that energy was still apparent?
That energy always existed.
Yeah.
But it changed shapes and forms and whatever.
Yeah.
It changed
Yeah,
through the time.
yeah.
Sure, according to what we can assert now, yes, I think we can say that.
Okay, so through what we
But
have,
still, even though we can say it according to our logic is still flawed because our perception of the world on which we built the logic we have is flawed. You know what I mean? It's a problem of senses, of perception.
I know.
That's the main problem.
I'm not very well versed in science
cool.
or
Go ahead,
religion, but I try my best in it because I speak about history and Somalia
Go
and
ahead.
Africa. But I'll try my best in it. But anyways, as we know, the energy was always there. According to some people, according to some scientists, energy was always there.
Sure, let's make that assumption.
Okay,
yeah.
let's make that assumption, right? And then, so when this thing, let's say when the Big Bang started, before it started, the point, something, there has to be a reaction that caused that expansion. It can't just stop. Like, for example, for that leaf to fly, to move from there to there, there's got to be a certain reaction,
Of course.
or a certain motion to move there.
Something happened. Yeah.
Something happened,
Sure.
right? So as a Muslim, what we call God is the cause that made it to happen.
Sure.
Because that cause has to be outside of this phenomena for this type, because it can't be within
To
it.
cause that thing.
To cause that thing. It can't be within it, because if it's within it, then it's part of energy and everything that's made out of it.
Well, look, it's also possible that there was always a transformation. Before the Big Bang, there was a transformation into the Big Bang, and then after the Big Bang, there was the explosion, which was the Big Bang. It's not necessary that for us to have something outside of that whole system for transformation to occur. Seeing that we've only seen things in constant transformation, we can't assert for sure that there ever was a part of existence where everything wasn't in the transformation. You know what I mean? So I think it's safer to assume that everything was always in some kind of transformation. So I don't think it's safe to assume that something outside of the whole system caused it. How's it going,
I
bro?
hope you're
right.
in better spirits. Have a lovely, what do you call it? Celebration.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas to you.
I don't
I know
celebrate.
you don't celebrate. That's why I said have a nice holiday.
You too.
Yeah, but you do celebrate. You do celebrate. That guy does celebrate. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah. I'm agnostic.
We're going to win you over one day. Don't listen to him.
I wish them good luck. They'll need it.
But
Anyway.
so basically, so as we believe, so as a Muslim, the point I was trying to make,
Yeah.
is that so for us to, for example, when people say I don't believe a man in the sky, or I don't believe in God, because they have a certain image.
Yeah, I know you don't shape God in a
Of God,
specific
yeah,
way.
so-
It's
so-
prohibited to shape God in
you
Islam.
can't, because yeah, exactly, because we don't know what God is.
Sure, okay.
Because
Fair enough.
as you said, we can't go back that far to know what it is. But all we know is the cause and effect.
Yeah, sure, cause
So,
and effect, yeah.
so that's why even God tells us in the Quran, learn from the cause and effect which happened, and from those cause and effects, you would know whether it exists or not.
Okay.
Meaning, like, study nature, study the phenomena of what's it called, the universe, study all these things. and see what you can find, and through those traces you might find something.
Yeah. Look, the conversation I had with Hijab about this ended a little bit abruptly. I wish it continued for a bit longer. We're just talking about the conversation I had with Muhammad. Basically, what he said is, in a universe of infinite regression with constant cause and effect.
I don't know what infinite regression.
Infinite regression. Okay, basically I'm standing here because I was born. I was born because my parents were born. They were born because humanity existed. Humanity existed because animals existed. Animals existed because life existed. Blah blah blah. We go in an infinite regression, right? Infinite. We go back infinitely in a cause and effect relation, right?
Okay.
And he called it out because in an infinite cause and effect, infinite regression. We basically don't exist. You can't take one out of infinity because one out of infinity is infinity. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's his argument.
Okay.
It makes some sense, but at the same time it doesn't make that much sense because he needs to use a different infinite regression, which is God, to justify the infinite regression of this world. Basically, okay, I'll just say it a bit more cohesively. He said, because we will be in a paradox of an infinite regression, there needs to be an uncaused cause, which is God, which is that was his argument. But it just creates a different infinite regression, which is God. What was before God? God. Before God, God. Before God, God. It's basically the same thing, honestly, if you ask me. It doesn't answer a lot of questions.
But there
just
is no
makes an assumption.
before God.
Yeah, sure, but look, if God is infinite, then where are we? Then we need to be part of God. If God is infinite, we can't be outside of God. And if we are part of God, then we are infinity, and we come back to the same problem. You know what I mean?
The thing is,
if God is infinite.
Yeah, but as you said, you can't lose energy. You just become something else.
Yeah,
now, as a Muslim, what we believe is that when you die, you don't really die, right?
You go to heaven or to hell.
No, basically, there's something, there's a source, or there's
soul.
There's something that's driving you, which is the soul, right?
Yeah, I know.
And that thing, which is you, moves on and lives on forever and ever, infinity. It has no end. There is no dying. There's no the end of you. You understand? So, sometimes it makes sense that we are infinite beings, right? We live forever and ever and ever. But at the end of the day, the idea that we can become God or we could be part of God does not make sense, because, like I said before, for example, let's say I'm a designer and I made a design, and if now the design came from my mind, it's my idea, but that design is not part of me.
Of course.
Do you know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is that energy, all the things that we see, the universe, the Big Bang, whatever's going on.
But you're not infinite. You're not an uncaused cause. You were caused by other causes, so you can't put yourself in the same level as God, because God is infinite and is an uncaused cause. So you can't compare.
No, I'm not comparing.
No, but look, you're comparing yourself to a design as God to us, right?
Okay.
You can't do that because you yourself are finite and God is infinite. Okay. You and God, I mean, if God exists, again, I'm talking like I believe in this, but I don't. I'm just making assumptions, right? I'm just, suspending the disbelief for a second. If God exists and He's infinite, then you can't compare yourself to your relation to the design as God's relation to us, because God is infinite and you are not infinite. You know what I mean? So it's not a good comparison. Yeah, if God exists, yeah, exactly. If God exists, you can't apply any logic that applies to you and to the outside world the same way to God and to you. You know what I mean? It simply doesn't apply. You simply can't link anything because God exists in a completely transcendent entity.
Go on.
As a transcendent entity.
I was going to change the subject. Go on.
I was going to say, obviously, if you look at the way the world is manifesting itself, it's very specific.
Yeah, of course.
The chances of this specific world existing are 0.0000.
Yeah. Of course.
You're saying that very low chance is chance. We just happen to have manifested.
I'm saying that the world, there's a saying that goes like this: Rome wasn't built in a day. I say the world didn't just become like it is now.
Yeah.
It took millennia and more than we can ever express with time for the world to become what it is now. And what was before, who the hell knows what was before? That's my point. Look, if we look at evolution, for example, many people say, oh, how can evolution be real if there's monkeys that live in the same time as us, right? If we came from monkeys, but we didn't come from the exact same kind of monkeys. That's the first thing. And secondly of all, there were different, there were basically different human beings before. Like there was the Neanderthals and there were the Homo sapiens. They were slightly different, even though they weren't the same. There were other different human beings in specific islands. I saw a documentary once about Australia. When the first Homo sapiens came there, they met like a shorter kind of humans. But now they don't exist, they no longer exist. So it is possible, just like the Neanderthals, they were just a slightly different kind of humans, you know? So evolution doesn't just go, okay, monkey, become human, become this and that and that. It goes monkey, become this monkey or this monkey or this monkey. And that monkey becomes a different kind of monkey, and then one of them might become a human. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
One question. What are the factors that causes that monkey to evolve?
Sorry,
what
go
are the
ahead.
factors that cause it to evolve and stop that monkey from evolving?
Genetic mutation.
What caused the monkey to evolve into a human?
You know, but why are we not seeing any monkeys show any signs of even remotely evolving? Even in very small ways. Nowhere near human, just a small sign of evolving.
Well, we aren't
because it's been
observing
hundreds-
them.
It's been thousands of years now.
Like if we were to
That's
wait,
it,
if
that's
we
it.
were to wait a million years, and we just see that they haven't changed one bit, not one more intent. If we were to take one from today, one from a million years time, and we just compare it exactly the same.
Yeah, for
Why
example, we
not?
can go back to 1,000 years, millennia, or BCs, right? And still, there's no
something-
record of monkeys changing or any
Not changing.
animal changing.
I'm not saying they're
Ooh,
going to change
I'll have
physically and
to
then go small.
look,
Same
guys.
with
I know your point now, but the problem with that is we only started, observing animals properly very, very short while ago. Like we have medieval artwork of dragons and hydras and people with faces on their bellies, Loch Ness monsters, everything. We have all kinds
I
of
want to
things.
change the subject though. Do you
Go ahead.
believe?
So we can't say that for sure, I think. Go ahead, sure. No problem.
See the way the world, remember I said the way the world has manifested itself?
The world, yeah,
The world
has
demons,
manifested itself, yeah.
everything, right?
Sure.
You see how there's certain evils, murder.
Okay, sure.
Is that not a bit philosophical to show that the world has been maybe possibly made in a way where we are trying to just to see how humans would interact and whether someone would do good and whether someone would do bad? Because we could have manifested ourselves where this doesn't exist. Murder, rape,
Sure.
certain disgusting things. It's weird that they manifested in this particular specific way. It's not a bit strange. Like, is that not a bit
Okay,
weird?
if we're talking about
why couldn't
evil-
they just come in a different way? Why couldn't they just, this doesn't exist, this evil doesn't exist? Why did it have to like this? Is that not a bit philosophical?
Why did it happen like this?
Yeah.
Well, things weren't always like this. Things have been changing,
Like, remember evil?
always. But if we speak about evil, evil is a difficult thing to speak about because it depends on what we're talking about. For example, do you think a lion is evil?
No.
Well, but he murders, he kills, he rapes. When a lion takes over the pride of another lion, he kills all the kids of the previous lion, and he makes his own
See
kids.
killer whales?
For humans, that's evil. For a lion, he's a fucking lion. What do you expect from him?
Killer whales are the only species, I'm not sure if this is factual,
Go ahead.
who practice malice.
Who practice malice?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're the only species, but I don't know what you're talking about because they throw the seals up and they play with them before they kill them. Cats do the same. Cats play with the mice before they kill them. Like malice exists because of intellect, and intellect gives the possibility of malice.
Okay, are you saying that humans are the only species who can recognize that maybe you shouldn't do these things? It's just not right to do these things.
Not
Maybe.
necessarily. Humans can recognize it to a much greater extent. As I said, you need intellect to commit something evil just for the sake of it. To feel pleasure by committing something bad, to giving pain to another being. Ants would never do that because ants are practically machines. They have almost a programming. You know what I mean? Humans can do it because they have the choice to do it. You know what I mean? That's why we invent our own moralities. That's why I usually say that morality is an evolutionary trait of humans. Because all the beings that didn't create a moral code, that didn't have any moral code, all the humans that didn't create a moral code, well, they simply couldn't exist in a society. They simply couldn't organize each other, couldn't coexist well enough. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, let me change the subject for a minute.
Go ahead.
What do you think of? What time are you wrapping up, Leon? Alright, cool. Let's try to keep it short. What do you think of the shape of the Earth? Do you think it's flat, it's round, it's oval? What is it?
Well, that's a funny question. Well, I'm pretty sure it's almost round. Now, there's a little bit of variation. It's not a perfect circle, but it's invisible from space. It looks like a perfect circle from space. But scientists have calculated that it's a little bit, just a little bit, squashed from the North Pole and South Pole.
Okay.
But it's invisible from space, from what I know.
So
I would assume that it's round because of all the information we have.
I'm going somewhere with this. So according to what we see and what we perceive, that's how we're measuring whether the Earth is flat or not. Or
The likelihood, how much probability each fact has, that's how I measure. Like Earth being round is pretty probable.
Yeah, but let's just say it's oval, like you described it.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say it's oval. But let's say and everybody had this idea. But at the end of the day, do you think this is just an illusion, like some sort of a perception that we perceive in the way that the shapes are, and it's only apparent to us, but when it came to a fourth dimensional being, the shape of the Earth will be totally different?
Yeah, of course it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
But I would say it's useless for us to think about it because you can't see the world from the perspective of the fourth dimensional
But we can
being.
imagine.
We can imagine it, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
But we can't see it the same way because we're bound to our three-dimensional.
Yeah, but in a way that we can
being.
imagine is that we can measure. For example, in a third dimension, let's say in a 2-dimension, you've got only flat area. Like let's use a cube as the best one.
Yeah.
You got 4 sides, which is just flat, and then you got 3-dimension, which is like the whole box, and then 4th dimension.
So one dimension is basically a spot. 2-dimension is basically like a drawing.
Yeah.
3-dimension is a shape.
No, 2-dimension is just a box.
Pretty much has depth.
It's
like a drawing.
Yeah, it's like
right?
4 lines.
It can be a drawing. It
Yeah.
can be anything.
Yeah, something. Yeah, like my
and
hand.
3-dimension is a shape. As
It's
a shape, you can touch it.
Tangible. You're right. Now, in a fourth, basically, the more lines you add to the aspect, right, or the shape, it just gives more a dimensional equation.
Yeah, it's possible that there are further dimensions, and it's being that possibility is being developed by
for
quantum
example,
mechanics.
what
That there might be
3D
dimensions inside of each molecule. But go ahead.
So, for example, what a 3D oval,
Okay. Like
looks,
the Earth, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, looks to you could look, because remember we don't see, because at the end of the day a 4th-dimensional being lives in the same world that we live in.
Okay, yeah.
But
sure.
we just can't, just like a 2-dimension cannot perceive a 3rd dimension, you can't perceive a 4th-dimensional being as well. So the same thing. So the way they see this oval, because remember, the more higher level you're in the dimension, there are different layers of
Yeah,
lines.
in theory, it's possible that it would perceive more than what we
Yeah,
do.
there's more lines and more, because you need light, lines and shapes, to make the shades and all of that. So you get more complicated information. Now, do you think, since there are more extra lines or shapes added to the 4th dimension, do you think still a 4th-dimensional being, because we're imagining here, do you think they would still perceive the Earth as oval?
Well, again, I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. If there's a being as superior to us as we are to a drawing that we make on paper, then probably he would see a lot more than we do.
Ants are like
If there is a being like that.
Some people say ants are 2-dimensional beings.
Sorry?
As far as you saying that the Earth is, remember you said it's not
Round.
Yeah. No problem. I was going to say one thing. You see Russia,
Okay.
you have the Bering Strait, and then you have Alaska. So isn't it? Can you not logically deduce that it has to be round? Let's say you were to keep going east from Russia, you go all the way to Alaska.
Yeah.
Alaska, you go to the USA, and then you keep going.
You go to
east,
Europe,
then you go to Europe,
and then you go back to Russia, yeah.
So isn't that obvious? It's not like evidence that it's circular. In fact, they come back to one point. You keep going in one direction, and then you eventually come back to the same.
Yeah, it's round.
Yeah, no, but you said that. The only way to find out is from above. Did you say that? No, you said the only way to find out is from space.
No,
You can't
look.
actually see it.
Okay, look, that's the example I gave with the pictures.
I'm saying, is
The-
there logical evidence just through that? to
Yeah,
prove that
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
correct?
Basically, there are other ways to find out that the Earth is round. Like there's you can research about the Coriolis effect and why it happens, and it happens because of the rotation of Earth and the relation between the rotation and the atmosphere. But there are many ways. There are
For
many
example,
ways.
like this is like a 4D cube, right?
Okay.
And when it's in motion, this is how it looks. Now this is how we imagined it, because it's the only way we can imagine a 4D cube. So if a fourth-dimensional being who sees, and that's a 4D cube, how do you think they will see a circle or an oval?
No idea, man.
You know what I'm
It's a
saying?
good question, but I have no idea.
So this is the kind
How
of
they
thing
would
like
have it see
when
it.
people argue about whether the Earth is flat or round, and I'm thinking, bruv, it's just what your reality shows you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would say that according to the evidence we have, it's round.
Yeah,
pretty,
but it's just
pretty sure it's
but
round.
that's just our reality, isn't it?
Yeah, man, but we need to interact with our reality. Like we need to, for example, there's a military operation in the world between two countries. There's war, right? Your country is in one side. For example, you're from Somalia and you're in a war with Korea. Let's imagine. You need to know that you can go both ways to Korea. You know what I mean? If you don't know that, then you're kind of fucked in the war because you just get destroyed.
We could never be.
Yeah, they'll attack you from the rear, and you'll be like, "Oh, what the hell? How is this possible?"
All right, Leon, man, have a good day.
Yeah, anyway.
Thanks a lot.
From your
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
So what I'm going to do today is discuss whether or not anti-Semitism exists within the three main political parties in the United Kingdom. There's been a lot of talk in the press about anti-Semitism. A lot of people have been making accusations about anti-Semitism. So I decided to find out for myself if there are MPs or councillors within the three main political parties who are anti-Semitic. So I'm going to do some research on that. So we shall start with the Liberal Democrats. The first piece of information I was able to find through investigation actually came from the Evening Standard, and it was an article which was released back in the 20th of November 2019, and the article from the Evening Standard claims Wahid Rafiq, the Liberal Democrat candidate, suspended from party